Well, thank you for coming. It looks like we got a good turnout. And Michael, thank you for getting the extra chairs out. Much appreciated. Let's give our monitors, all of our monitors, a big hand.
The flag? Sure. Look at all the people.
It was just suggested that we've got a good group of people, and it's a holiday weekend, so let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. All of those that are able to stand, please do. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you, everybody. All right, so I know there may be, just since this started, there may be some new people that weren't even in the community when it started. So I will introduce myself. My name is Randy Robbins. I'm the president of the Pass Action Group. We started this group in September of 2021 to battle the Banning Point Warehouse, which is across the street. One thing I'd like to do is announce the board. The board members that are here today. I'll start all the way to the far side. We've got Harry Finnegan, Bruce Brown, Gracie Luna representing Four Seasons, Diane Burley, Bob Hicks, Jeannie Lloyd, Jan Fleming, and over here is John Swem. I didn't bring my list, so I know there's a couple that aren't here. Jim Moran and somebody else, but sorry. And Jim Corrigan, our vice president. He's not here. So what I'd like to just do first is just kind of go over just very quickly a historical recap of where we've gotten, where we are. So where we started, obviously, was started from the Planning Commission, ended up having a meeting in September of 2021 to approve the specific plan for this project. Ultimately, they sent it to the council. Immediately, we appealed, I misspoke. They approved it, and it would have died right there, and then it would have been approved, but we contested it and took an appeal to the city council. That appeal at the time, which was in February of 2022, was denied by the city council at that time. So we did not prevail at that moment. So we then started a, I get dry mouth really bad. So we initiated a lawsuit, the Pass Action Group, against the city of Banning and the development company Creation Equity. There were 4 causes, just simply stating them. There was bias against, we believed our city council member at the time was biased, and so that was one cause. We also contested the environmental impact report, commonly referred to as EIR, and the general plan and specific plan being used improperly. Those were our bases. We had a judge's decision in March. We had a hearing in March of this year. It took almost 2 years to get it, over 2 years to get it into court. So we took it to a hearing in front of a judge. We prevailed on the bias against our council member at the time, and we did not win on the other 3 causes of action. What this created was for the city now has had to throw out the approval of the project, and now it is coming back to the city, coming back to the city council for it to be either approved or disapproved again. And we're going to be talking about that later on. I'll get into that in a minute. And in the meantime, we did file a notice of appeal on the 3 causes that we have lost. You'll hear more about this in a little bit from Diane. In those three causes, in that notice of appeal, once everything is done and there's a document that comes from the court, then we have 30 days to either keep the appeal or pull out of the appeal. It's one of the reasons we're here today, and we'll get into that more in depth in a few minutes. But we have 30 days from when that document is given to us, and again, Diana will cover that a little bit more. Don't have a fancy slideshow today, just showing the approval dates. The city is going to be reviewing and be on the agenda for July 9th at the city council meeting at 5 p.m. in the council chambers. And they will go through the entire approval process again for Creation Equity to take the 47 acres, divide it into a 30-acre parcel, a 7-acre parcel, and a 10-acre parcel, as well as approve the design review for the just shy of a little over 600,000 square foot warehouse. The city originally scheduled this for May 24th, but our attorney, and through help of a citizen here in town, it was made very clear that they did not notify it properly. This first one is let me rephrase that. The city did not do an adequate, at that time, public notice of that. Our attorney sent a letter to the city, and the city said, okay, we will back it off. They rescheduled it for June. And then in June, they scheduled it. It was ready to go, supposedly. Then when the paperwork was sent out, the public notice was sent out, there was 12 to 14 attachments that were part of the agenda that were left off. And that was brought to attention by a citizen, which we were greatly appreciative. And our attorneys reviewed it as well. We brought it to the city's attention. So they said we can't meet in June. That brings us to July 9th. So we will be meeting on July 9th. The city will be meeting to address it. And it appears from what we can tell, our attorney is going through it, comparing them side by side. It appears that the original plan with no mitigations is what is proposed in the public notice. Okay, and that's still being reviewed because it just came out last week, Thursday, or in Thursday's paper. And so our attorney's checking on that. So that's where we stand right this minute. And so now I want to talk about what our plan is as the Pass Action Group for the meeting on July 9th. The Pass Action Group has developed a 10-minute statement. The way it's going to work is the developers will have 10 minutes to present their case. We will then have 10 minutes to present our case. We will then have the chance to rebut their 5-minute rebuttal that our attorney will handle. We will have a 5-minute rebuttal to their presentation, and then they have 5 minutes to represent us. Or excuse me, to rebut us, not represent. And sorry about that. And so that's the format. And then public comment times will be 2 minutes per speaker. Okay? So, but we have a time for a 10-minute statement. And we meaning a committee that we put together of 4 board members, as well as working with Kevin Bundy, our attorney, have developed a 10-minute statement stating all of our concerns, requesting that the project not be approved, as it's requested, pointing out that, and that also pointing out that at a minimum, they have an obligation to mitigate for the benefit of all Banning residents, at least refer it back to the Planning Commission at the worst. And then we could potentially have to argue it to the Planning Commission. That would be one possibility. We have set up about 4 other prepared statements in the 2-minute public comment time. Anybody's welcome to go. It's a public meeting, of course, and anybody can speak at the public comments. The one thing we are asking as the Pass Action Group is to let us make our 4 or 5, whatever it ends up being. Right now it's at 4, prepared 2-minute statements prior to everybody else. We're just asking that. We spent a lot of time on it, trying to keep it nice, clean, professional, and try to not have any, try to minimize outbursts and so forth. Those of you that were at the Planning Commission and the council meeting know that we had some outbursts of some citizens, and that I don't know that that affected it, but it could have. And so we want to be very careful to try to avoid that. So again, you're able to bring up whatever you want. We just ask that let us talk first, and we do ask that you try to keep any comments you have concise and respectful. Because if we bore them, using my words, if we bore them with repeating the same thing over and over again, we'll lose them. You know, if we think that's this board's opinion, that if we do that, we will potentially lose their attention span, for lack of a better word. So, yeah, Jenny, very quick. Okay, I'll repeat the. Go ahead. Okay. Okay. Yeah. What was just suggested last time when we had the appeal with the city council, we were told we could get in the council chambers at 4:30. When we walked in at 4:20, there were 30 members of a local union there, sitting in every other seat, trying to intimidate whatever they were trying to do. So if that were to happen again, we will say something. We will have a badge or something that's going to say Pass Action Group. So like Jenny just said, if she jumps up and gets in line, but let's just say Jan is scheduled to talk next, she will defer to Jan to do that. And so that's what we ask. We can't make it mandatory. I'm not going to ask to make it mandatory. I'm just going to say as a group, we would love to see that happen that way. That way we can get all of our official, if you want to call it that, words out there. Okay? As far as we know, as far as we've been able to determine, Creation has not filed the actual development plans yet for the project. So if we estimate that if they get approved and they do it, it could take 6 to 9 months before any construction actually takes place, if that happens. But it could. That's we don't know that for a fact, but we believe that to be the case at this time through our research. So that's in general where we're at. Diane, you want to come up and go over what you were going to do? Okay, she's going to sit up front. Yeah, Jack, I'll go ahead and take one quick one, and then we will do some question and answer later. The question was, do we have to email the comments beforehand? No, we don't. They may ask you to sign a paper, but they cannot hold us to that, okay, the way I understand it. So you don't have to
You
do
hear
it, but if you do want to send in some points, again, concise and respectful, I'll keep stressing ahead of time to the council through the city clerk, you could do that as well.
Okay.
Go ahead, Diane.
Can you hear me? Okay. So we're going to talk about where we are. Am I too loud? Or are you okay? Okay. We're going to talk about where we are legally and there we go. Excuse me. My scroll scrolled without me asking it to. Okay. So there are two, what I call legal buckets to put in your mind. Okay, so try to keep them separate because it's very confusing even for lawyers. And the first thing I'm going to talk about is the pending appeal. The appeal, we filed the notice of appeal, and no further action needs to be taken until, and designated the record. And designating the record means that it's like a notice to the court reporter that she needs to prepare the transcript of the hearing on March 13th. So as far as we know, that's in process. The transcript has not been filed with the Court of Appeal. It's filed with the Court of Appeal, not with the Superior Court. And once that is filed, the record is deemed designated, and then PAG has 30 days, our attorneys have 30 days to file the opening brief. Now, it could be a pretty short timeline. So once that happens, of course, we're gonna need to decide if in fact we want to go forward. The standard for overturning the Superior Court's 3 findings that CEQA was compliant with is a high standard, just like the standard was high in the Superior Court, but we did win on the bias issue. So that's the way the law is written, and that's what we have to deal with. It isn't that we don't have a good case, it's just that the higher court is going to defer to the Superior Court, and the Superior Court will defer a lot to the City Council unless something really untoward happened, and in our case, something pretty outrageous happened, which is why we won part of the case. So we need to decide whether the expense of the appeal is worth pursuing, because it's going to cost some money. The attorney time is going to be, pretty intense. There's going to be a lot of attorney time. Okay, that's thing number 1. Thing number 2, bucket number 2, is what happens if the City Council, I can't catch a break. It's still there. What happens if the City Council approves the project? Do we have grounds to challenge it under CEQA? Yes, we do. So we could, if we felt that City Council didn't do its job again, or there were problems with the conditions or whatever, we could file a second lawsuit, a second petition for writ of mandate. It would be PAG 2, okay? And at this point, we're not completely sure what's before the City Council, because when the hearing was postponed, there was a bunch of material that wasn't attached. And our attorneys are combing through the list of conditions and everything attached to that notice and comparing them with the original project that was approved in February 2022. So they're leaving no stone unturned. Again, if we pursued a second lawsuit in the Superior Court, we have to deal with the standard of proof under CEQA, which means it's a high standard to meet.
And if I may add, Diane, just for clarity, that would going on the assumption that they do not approve
Yes.
that they do approve the project and do not take our we are not victorious.
Right, and so, again, that's an unknown at this point. One of the things you should be aware of as to both the appeal from PAG 1 and a potential mandate petition from PAG 2 is that neither of these legal events can operate to prevent the developer from breaking ground. From breaking ground. In other words, the developer could go ahead, actually the whole time the lawsuit's been going on, if they had wanted to, they could have started grading and broken ground. So we all pretty much have an idea of what our first lawsuit cost. A second lawsuit may not be quite as expensive. We, again, need to evaluate the costs and benefits given the standards that we have to meet and the benefits to this community of going forward and trying to do more to stop the warehouse. And that's it.
So that's from the legal side, and like I said, just to kind of make a joke here, if the legal stuff gets a lot of, for lack of a better phrase, no offense to any attorneys, specifically Diane, gets a lot of mumbo jumbo out there. I'm sure some of you were a little bit lost, but hopefully we got it across, and because we wanted to bring this back to you. Because as I've said from the very start, and this board has said from the very start, this is your organization. This is your town hall. This is not the Pass Action Group leadership's town hall. This is for the citizens that are affected by this and the supporters, which I say every town hall, I'll say it again, which I am still amazed at the amount of financial support, overall moral support and financial support that has been put at this endeavor. So I want to say thank you for that as well. So what it boils down to, based on what Diane was saying, the appeal process considerations that we have are appeal. If they do approve it, and we are not victorious in stopping the approval, it does not guarantee that they can't continue with development. Right now, as Diane said, they could have broken ground up until the judge ruled to throw out the ruling. They could have legally broken ground. So now when that window started, March 15th or so, give or take, and that's until now, until it is reapproved, is the only time frame they have not been able to actually break ground. So if they do get an approval, whether we file another lawsuit, continue with the appeal that we've already did a notice to appeal on, we can't stop them from breaking ground if they choose to. Now, if they ultimately lose, they'll have to put it back to they'll have to pull anything they did up. And I don't know how, if they were only at the grading stage, I don't know what happens there. But if they were at any building stage, they'd have to take it down. So, like I say, we can't do it. And Creation would be making a huge investment knowing that it could all be lost. So we're going on the hope that even if we do appeal, if we do have a need to appeal all the way through the process, we believe that their source of capital is from a limited partnership and not an internal corporate funding. We don't know that for certain, but based on the type of firm they are, it seems that way. Yeah, I was just asked to repeat that. So we believe that their source of capital to build this project, and this comes from something they've said plus research that some of our members have done, that their source of capital, the money they have to build this, was from investors, not just from their business model. That's my paraphrasing it. Okay. So the cost estimate for a full-on appeal is $100,000 to $120,000. That's to complete it, and that would probably be over about a 2-year time, since we dealt with a two-year period on the last one. So we would probably need close to $50,000 in the next few months. We have about $15,000 or $20,000 getting us through this right now. That's where we're at now. We have enough to finish where we're at, minus the full-on appeal and so forth. So that's what we're doing. So that's going to bring us to the brass tacks, and this is why we called the town hall. We basically need to know as soon as possible, or at least immediately after the council ruling, what the community wants to do. Again, this is your fight, and we've just been leading it. It's not our fight. I mean, we're involved in it, obviously, as residents here at Sun Lakes and Four Seasons and so forth. Excuse me. So what we need to do tonight, what I would like us to do tonight, is get a feel if you guys want to fund a full-on appeal. Again, we may not get the answer tonight, so one option that we have is to email the, I hate calling it a pledge, because it sounds like we're begging for money, because we're begging for you to spend your money for your project as much as it is for our project as the leaders of it. So we would want to have it, whatever you agree tonight, like a show of hands if we want to, or we could do whatever. And if we get enough pledges over the next 30 days that we have a strong indication that we will have sufficient pledges, then the Pass Action Group Board is willing to continue this fight. But if we don't have the money to take this appeal, then we don't have the money. I mean, it's just being brutally honest. And hang on, we'll have a question and answer in just a little bit. So if there's not a strong invitation, or there's insufficient pledges are made, we are going to commit to staying until the Planning Commission review. If they were to put it back to the Planning Commission, we're prepared to stay on that. That's not a problem. And final mitigation discussions are at an end. And that's basically where we're at today. As the notices that we sent out, through Facebook and a couple of emails that went out, that was the point we're making. It's time, again, the tremendous support we've already had. I know some of you have given 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. I know some of you have given a lot of money. And, in the marketing world, I'm not in the marketing world, or I was never in the marketing world, but my understanding, if you can get 15 to 20% response, that's a strong response. If any type of a mass marketing, we're over 30% of the residents. And again, that's why I say it's been phenomenal, and I believe in all of you, and we appreciate that you've believed in us to lead this charge. So I don't know, at this point we can do some questions. Can I get a couple of the board members to take microphones around? That'll probably be easier than lining them up. And Jenny's first and Jack's second. Yeah, there's a couple there. Hold the left button down. Here, just take that.
Hello. Hello. Okay. My question is that Diane had 2 buckets, and that what you've just recently discussed is only one of the buckets. And I want to know whether there's a reason why the appeal would be better than another lawsuit. Is there a big difference in cost? In other words, I'd like to be able to compare them if we're going to make a decision. That has nothing to do, we'll need money for either one of them, but, okay, that's my question.
That's a good question. And to clarify, and Diane, correct? Yeah, go ahead. Diane can answer it. It would actually be two different things.
Okay, so they are two separate things. They're two separate lawsuits. And as to the PAG 2 lawsuit, it's really hard to even make an estimate at this point because we don't know what's going to happen at the city council meeting. Potentially, the two could go on at the same time. I think it might be kind of unwieldy. It depends on how things develop. Maybe. I mean, we're not sure. We're not sure.
It could even be both,
Or both.
potentially.
I don't know if whether we can afford both. That's, yeah. Okay.
Hi, I just wanted to comment on when you go to speak. In January, the City Council went to action minutes only. So if you go to speak and you do not send it in by email or by mail, whatever you want to send in, it will not be placed in the minutes and it will not be recorded. So you must also speak, but also turn whatever you speak into the city clerk by 5 p.m., preferably the day before, but you can get it in as late as 5 p.m. the day of. And I just want to make sure everyone knows that because you'll go up there and speak and there will be no record of it, other than a video that you would have to watch.
Is that verbatim, Sherry?
No, verbatim, sorry. Verbatim is no longer being used. It's action minutes. It only records in the minutes what action was finally taken, the votes and what action was taken. Nothing that anyone says, or even whether you're for or against something, is not even recorded. So be sure to send in your comments ahead of time. So on the 9th, you should send it in to make sure it gets to the city clerk by the 8th. But she still should accept them by 5 p.m. on the 9th to the city clerk. You must mail it to the city clerk, which is Carolyn Patton. So it's cpatton@banningca.gov. You can find that on the website.
I'll send it out also on the Facebook. So thank you, Sherry. Right there in front of you, John. Jack's next.
In my gut, I have a thought that I'm thinking the city council is already planning to approve. That's my gut feel. I don't know that anybody's let anything slip that they won't. I think that the construction person is going to be there. I think they're still just as adamant about it as they were a couple of years ago. Their property's going up in value. I don't think they'll disapprove it. The thing that bugs me is, I was there about a year ago when they were going to put a marijuana warehouse across from that place on Charles Street, and the council said, oh, we've changed our mind about how we treat the citizens of Banning. And they struck down that marijuana plant on Charles Street. I don't know whether any of that's hanging over. I think that Sun Lakes is a thorn in the city council side, and whatever we want, they don't. So I think we're in for a fight if we're up to it, and I think they're going to approve it, and I think that's where we are. The thing we got to remember again, I've said this before, it's still 300 trucks, regardless of that stuff down at the other end of town. And it's going to be 300 trucks. Okay, Jack.
Come on, Jack.
Anyway, and it's going to be a 5-story building across the street.
Please use
Yep.
the mic. Please use the mic.
Thank you, Jack. One thing I will say that just for what it's worth, I understand your sentiment. Don't think I don't. I think a lot of people in this room have some of that sentiment, and you know, at this point we're seeing it through. There has been some, for lack of a better phrase, backroom lobbying that's been going on the last 2 months. So but it's been by members of the Sun Lakes community have been trying to do what they can to make people happy around the city. You know, without getting into all the details, you know, because we've talked to people. We can't talk to council members about the case directly, so we've just tried to pump up Sun Lakes quite a bit in the last few weeks, and it may or may not make a difference. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, go ahead, Raylene.
At this month's master board meeting, Sherry Flynn told us all that the city council asked her to recuse herself, and she said no. So what does that do to all of this?
Okay, so the day after I was elected and put into office, January 11th, I got a letter from the city attorney asking me to recuse myself. And I said on what basis. We went back and forth. I said I want a formal letter from the FPPC, whether I have a financial interest and have to recuse myself. The FPPC came back and said, I do not have a financial interest. I do not have to recuse myself. I'm also more than 2,000 feet away from that project. I was again asked to recuse myself when this was coming up in May. And on the basis of what I had said as the Vice President of Pass Action Group at Planning Commission meeting in 2021 and 2022. I proved to them with case law that not only did the Supreme Court in California rule that anything that was said by someone who was then subsequently running for council and got put on council does not cause you to recuse yourself, because the Supreme Court ruled that not only do I have an obligation to let people know where I stand when I'm running, I have a duty to let people know where I stand. And so I am not going to recuse myself. And I think I have a lot of valuable information to give, and that's one of the main reasons why I'm not recusing myself. And I do not have to recuse myself.
Thank you, Sherry. And I will acknowledge that through the FPPC, the Fair Political Practice Commission, I've seen that document, that it does exist, and that's understandable. I get that. From a math standpoint, if the motion is to approve, it would take 3 to approve. Worst case scenario, just as a worst case scenario, if Sherry were to recuse herself, it would still take 2 more council members to have it not pass. Wave. Thank you, Chuck. Who has the other mic?
Yes, I do not personally plan to attend the council meeting, but I did, I think in preparation for the June meeting, submit comments to the city clerk. Do I need to resubmit those because of the new date?
You know, I would say it can't hurt. You shouldn't need to. They should have it as an open file, I'll call it, but they shouldn't need to. Is that the way you see it, Sherry? Okay, you need to redo it. The suggestion is to redo it. Anybody that sent one already, send it again. Yeah, just forward it from your own.
Good evening. Good
Go,
evening.
Bob.
Good evening. It's working, okay. I have two questions. When I was with PAG, we put together some concessions that we're going to ask from the developer. And I was wondering if there were discussions with the developer and any of those were accepted. The other thing, I remember we had the possibility of getting reimbursed from the state for the legal fees. Is there anything new on that? So those two items.
The first one I'll answer. There were some confidential settlement discussions that did not result in a settlement. That's about the only way I can answer that. And then Diane, could you answer the fee thing?
Okay, under California law, I believe it's the private attorney general statute, our attorneys, because they are doing litigation in the public interest, can apply for attorney's fees as to the portion of the case in which we prevailed. And our attorney is already in the process of preparing his fee motion. And his fee that he will recover is greater per hour than the fee we paid him. It's kind of like he gets a bonus, and there is a pot of money there. I can't tell you how much because we don't know how it's going to be apportioned. What Kevin told me is that he will typically in these cases he meets with the other side, and they decide how the attorney what the attorney's fees are. Basically, they kind of negotiate, which and then it's presented to the court. So there will be a fee motion, and the fee motion will be. I'm not sure the timing. There was talk that we would wait till the appeal was over, but that's not necessarily how it has to play out. It takes a lot of time for him to put this together. He has to comb through everything he did, and you know, it's a long document. It's a lot of work. That's what you got to do to get paid when you're a lawyer. I've done it myself. So anyway, so yes, to answer Bob, yes, that is true.
Okay.
There is money that will
Good.
come back. Yes.
A further question. I think everyone would like to be enlightened on how much money was raised and how much is remaining. Well, I guess you said there was 20,000 remaining. Gives a feel for what the legal costs were.
Do you have top of your head? Jeannie's our treasurer. She may have it at the top of her head. I could give you a ballpark.
Well, it's probably as good as
I
mine.
guess we're in the same ballpark.
I don't think okay. We had raised over $300,000, and that's good. Yeah, that's the good news. And the bad news is we have spent over $300,000. And as Randy said, he did say approximately 15 to 20,000 left, but we still have some ongoing bills with the attorney. We're not up to date right now, so when they speak of the fee for the appeal, that's in addition to, we're more or less looking at ground zero and then going forward.
The question was, do we need to raise money for an appeal? And the answer is absolutely yes. There may be money coming in, as you heard Diane indicate, but it will come in way down the road. And certainly, if it were to come in sooner, then you would be notified of that, and it would curtail. But right now, I think, is the point where we need to get to the punchline, which is, well, you know, like we said, somewhere the estimate is 100,000 to 120,000 for the full appeal over the 2-year period. As Randy indicated, somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 to 40,000 within the next 3 to 4 months, and the rest can come in over time. is the best projection we have at the moment. But, the real issue is showing your desire by a show of hands.
Yeah, before we do that, the lady in the back has been standing for a little
Oh,
bit.
okay,
So
sorry.
let's give her let's
Sure.
give her the thing, and then we'll take a breather from the questions and do what Bob just suggested.
Thank you. We're talking about $120,000. My question is it just Sun Lakes or is it others? Because I know that other people were joining us, so which other communities are joining us?
That's a great question. When this started, we did get some donations from outside of the Sun Lakes area and outside of the immediate community. So, people in District 1 and District 2 down at the other end of town. Also, Four Seasons has been involved with a board position as well. Their percentage has been definitely low compared to our percentage. I would say off the top of my head, 90 to 95% of the money has been from Sun Lakes. We did get a sizable four-figure donation from the lakes across the street, but ultimately, it's fair to say, with a couple of exceptions that came outside, from the other central part of town. I hate saying other end of town; that doesn't sound right. From the other end of town, we have, with a few exceptions, it has been virtually all funded by Sun Lakes residents.
Thank you. I see Gracie from Four Seasons.
Yes. Yep.
Hi.
Yep. And she's been here since day one.
Thank you. Gracie, are you? What is the feedback you're getting from Four Seasons for this? Because it does affect, unless you guys go out the other way. I mean, it does affect all of us.
Well, yes. It not only affects Four Seasons, it actually affects the entire city of Beaumont. And I'm sure, as everybody knows, Beaumont is now fighting their warehouse dilemma. But Four Seasons is still actively, I'm on the board of directors at Four Seasons, and I push every chance I get for donations. We've done a town hall at Four Seasons, and I'm hoping that if we do the appeal or whatever, that we can set up another town hall at Four Seasons, because believe me, even though Four Seasons is less than half of the homes, we are just as affected as Sun Lakes. So yes, I continue to fight. I continue to be on the board here when I don't have board meetings and can't make a meeting here or there. But no, Four Seasons is still involved. And I would like to say actively, but I think we can be more active.
Thank you. Thank you, Gracie.
And just one other note, and then I'll do what Paul was talking about. The Seneca Springs area, which is west of here, we took a weekend and spent I forget how many homes we hit. Jim's not here. Jim would know. But we took a pretty well-written flyer, hand-delivered to, I want to say it was 4,000 homes. And we got, I believe the answer was 0 from them. It was written as an awareness, ask for donations all in one. And that, it's what it was. It just, to them, it wasn't in their backyard or their front yard as it is for us. And so that's it. So to go along where Bob was getting started, and we'll do some more questions in just a minute. Show of hands, we'll start with that. Jack's starting it. Who wants to go through with this appeal and try to raise enough money for it? We'll come to all of that. All right, it looks like it's a very, very heavy majority. So it's almost unanimous, according to Bob. So okay, that's good to know, and we'll talk some more about that in a minute. Go ahead, and we'll take another question. Again,
First of all, I'd like to say something.
Go, Virginia.
2018, 2019, the city was parked in front of my house. I live at the kitty corner of the wall at the railroad tracks. They were looking over. I was glad to see that maybe they'll do some retail there. Unfortunately, it didn't. So I found out like everybody else did. Good thing the developer put up a sign to say warehouse. That scared us. When Randy was out here at the patio and many people were there, I want to say to Randy and everyone that was involved, thank you for saving my life and everybody else's life, because those trucks, had it happened and nobody would have done anything about it, I do believe that there would have been injuries of golf carts, there would have been more homeless campments there, and the smog and the diesel, everything would have been bad there. So please, this is going to save our life, and I want to tell you thank you, Randy, because I do take this personal.
It's my pleasure. I'm glad I was able to do it. And it looks like I'm going to be doing it a little longer.
I just had a quick question about, we were talking about concessions. I remember one of the meetings I attended, they were talking about before they could break ground or do anything if this was to pass, they were supposed to extend all the way to Sunset, and that there wasn't supposed to be trucks coming this way. Did that just get blown away, or what happened with the traffic and the environmental impact report?
My recollection was that was never in the documents, that it was contingent on the Sun Lakes Boulevard extension. The truck route issue is a whole nother issue that, it's gone both ways. I will make one statement. The community development director that has been involved in this project and many others around town was based on the article in the newspaper only. He was dismissed from his duties recently. So you can clap if you want. I mean, I hate to see anybody lose their career, but if he was doing something wrong, he might have been. I don't know. I have no idea. So back in the back, Virginia, there's one.
When it comes to affecting our neighbors, I've noticed in the last few weeks, especially coming off of the freeway, off the 10 freeway onto Highland Springs, that the traffic has been backed up 2 lanes all the way to the beginning of the off-ramp and actually onto the freeway. That, I think, is an additional public safety hazard, especially you put 2 or 3 or 4 semis on that off-ramp, and you are going to have cars backed up to Pennsylvania.
And you're going to have accidents, and yes.
And we'll have accidents, and it's all going to be because of not planning adequately and shoving this thing through. So I plan to bring that up at the meeting next week.
Thanks, Rich. And the Caltrans is working on that, but as anybody that knows, when you're working with the state government, it could take forever. And it's my understanding, it's a priority, but what does that mean in city government or state government? So without getting into spending a lot of time on that, it's a problem. Go ahead, Jenny. Yeah, what Jenny pointed out was that they just redone the lanes, the actual blacktop or concrete, whatever they ended up putting in. They just redid those, and now they're waiting for the full project, the diamond or the special crooked diamond or whatever they're calling it. But yeah, that's for another day, but that's definitely necessary. At some way, it's necessary. Okay, Darlene.
Randy, I have a question about the pledge. I'm assuming for the pledge you're requesting the total amount we would contribute for the entire appeals process. And if that's the case, can we spread it out, payments over, you said it could maybe 2 years, maybe not that long, but spread it out a while in payments. Has any thought been given to that?
It's a great question, and I'm sure that would work. And our treasurer, Jeannie, brought to my attention a few minutes ago. If you want, since this is for the appeal, and if we win, if it is not approved next Tuesday, we might not need much more money. Okay, but we don't know that till next Tuesday. So if anybody wants to could send a check as of, basically any checks that come in after today for a certain amount of time, we'll hold them. And then if we don't need the appeal, don't need it towards an appeal, then it'll be returned. So be sure to have contact information in there if you do send a check or drop a check off at Jeannie's house. And so forth. So that would be one way to do it, or just an email pledge with your contact info of what you might be able to do over the next. And if you want to let Darlene, I'll just use Darlene as an example. If you want to say I'll send you $500 here, $500 3 months from now, et cetera, then that will at least give us enough information to determine what we need to do and how we'd go about it. Yes, John.
I'd like to make a statement.
Make a statement, John. Hand the mic to yourself.
Thank you. I'd like to direct this, I think, to Sherry probably. If they've apparently made it tough to speak, you got to do this and you got to do that. What if they were to receive, the city council members were to receive several thousand postcards, letters about this and about our feelings between now and the 9th? Would that have any effect, you think?
I mean, there is, community pressure and peer group pressure that I think could change some minds. So I think it is really important to send in your emails, your letters, come and speak, all of that. I think that is a very important thing for you all to do, and it could possibly have an effect. I can't say, but I think that it's more positive to do that than to not do it.
Thank you, Sherry.
So perhaps if you were able to go to the meeting and meet the requirements and speak, that would be good. If you're not able to get there, or people that weren't here tonight, send something in writing to the city council members, not to Sherry, she's on our team. Send it to the other ones. There's 4 others that we need to swear. 2 of those, we need to get to them. So let's inundate them with mail, okay?
I have a question here. 2 questions, actually.
Just have a couple more things. The city council did not vote, or was not asked to vote, on the 2-minute rule. I don't know who made that rule, I can assume, but I'm going to be asking that be reversed, that you should be able to have, since it's an agenda item, you should be able to have a full 5 minutes. So I'm going to be doing that. Also, just to let you know that we as a council were not told that there was an appeal until I asked the city attorney yesterday. And we were never sent that there was an appeal. So I had asked to send the city council the appeal. Why wasn't it sent to the city council? We should have every bit of information on every lawsuit in this city. And a lot of times we don't get it.
I have 2 quick questions. If the council doesn't approve the project, will the company, the construction company, wouldn't they file an appeal on that decision? That's question number 1.
They could, yeah, they probably could, but not likely. Okay. Because once the way I understand it is they're coming into the city and saying this is our proposal, and because the court threw it out, everything else has already been litigated. So I don't believe that they are in great grounds for an appeal of the council approval.
Okay, and second question or suggestion, I know for the previous part of our process, we had some sort of fundraising. Can we have some sort of, we have so many events here and we benefit this, the city of Manning and many organizations. Couldn't we have some fundraising events to support the, whatever legal fees are coming,
Absolutely.
one way or the other?
And we
Thank
did
you.
we did a few of those before. We did the taco night. We did the with the auction, live auction, and we did the other one. I can't remember what it was in the South Clubhouse, what the theme was, but we did a couple of them. But yes, we would probably do. Basically, I've commented that we started as a protest group, turned into a marketing group, and now we're going to go back up to a marketing group. so because we got away from some of the marketing because we were at point A. Now it looks like we're going to have to go back to point A. So we'll probably get back into doing some of the marketing and the flyer handing out and so forth like we did before. Go ahead, Jan.
Okay, it's not an opinion, but it's something Jack said that made me think about it. When I first started this, we went to the council meetings and people were yelling out and whistling and clapping, and I forget, Sergeant at Arms says, if this continues, we're going to close it down. So if we all show up and we want to show approval, you don't have to clap. You know what this means? You're clapping, and they can't make you stop. So every time I go like this. All you have to do is clap silently, and they'll look at you funny because they look at me funny, but they know what this means. So instead of yelling out and clapping, so the council, who isn't crazy about us, this is what we do from now on. Okay, guys?
There you go. American Sign Language. All right. Any other questions, Kathy? Right in front of you, John. Take her the mic. Take her the mic.
Thank you. I wanted to just ask one question, I guess, about the attorneys and the past action group's input for Thursday, because I'm a little bit confused about the process the city is following, because the first step they have to do before they can rehear the project is to rescind it. And they now 3 times have noticed that they're going to have a new hearing, but they haven't rescinded it yet. So is that anything that's part of what's going to be put forward again, that there's just a procedural issue with this hearing being held on the 9th?
I'll have to see. I haven't seen the agenda yet because, of course, it's not out yet.
Yeah, exactly.
The public notice is on there. It was in the paper.
The notice also gets posted. There's a link at the bottom of the main page of the city's website where they put all the public notices.
Right, yeah, so that's there. So I'm not sure, but I know that for the June meeting, that you so diligently helped us find the problem with, the June meeting, it had as a consent item was to rescind it. So I'm at this moment, I'm assuming they'll have the rescind thing.
I'm sure that's what they're planning to do,
Yeah.
but to me, that doesn't seem, I don't know, I have some questions about the validity of that. And
By doing it
again,
the same day?
the validity of a public hearing notice that came out 10 days ago saying we're going to have a public hearing for a project that's already approved.
I see,
and then
yeah,
of course,
procedurally.
the judge's decision was you have to rescind your approval, and if it comes back, Mary can't be involved in the decision. They didn't. The court did not dictate that they have to hear it again. And in my view, and again, I've tried to research a little bit the municipal code, and I don't know the government code, but the city does have to rescind. The judge said you've got to rescind. But then, what is the process to bring it back? So, anyway, I have a question about whether or not those I's have been dotted and T's have been crossed.
We'll send a note out to our attorney.
Yeah, and then the other thing I just want to say is that everybody needs to. I'm going to hold out a little bit of hope that the city's going to come around like they did on the Charles Street project. The thing is, sadly, on that project, before the staff report that came out actually finally recommended denial of the project, which I was shocked by. I think Adam Rush got up and made the presentation, and he had a hard time making that presentation. He kept slipping back into trying to justify the project. But the staff recommendation to the council was for denial. The two versions of the report that have been posted so far have not been, and in my view, have had some biased information about what the judge said. But I'm going to hold out hope that they're going to listen to the fact that, you know, this project doesn't conform to the specific plan. It doesn't conform to the general plan. They really can't approve it. And some slim hope that they will do that. But if they don't do that, I think, I couldn't see behind me, but it sounds like most of the people in this room are willing to appeal or to support the appeal. I don't live in Sun Lakes. I live on the north side of I-10. But this affects me as much as it affects anybody here. And I'm losing my train of thought. Where was I going? Oh, the election, yes. In November, 4 of the 5 city council seats are up. So that appeal process or any other tricks that can be pulled out of the bag to delay this are in our favor. And we all need to work to get reasonable people in those council seats. So anyway, thank you.
Okay, we've got one more question or 2 more questions.
Hello, yes, working. Richard Fetterman here. In listening to this, and we're talking about this warehouse that is proposed across the street, there seems to be a bigger picture here, and I'm wondering if the board has gone in and researched the following. In our county, Riverside County, what is the square footage of warehousing that is already built and in place? The second part would be, of the facilities that are built and have remained emptied since they've been completed, what is that footage, square footage? And if that's appreciable, how can the council justify building what is nothing more than a boutique warehouse across the street, especially when they have an airport with acres and acres of empty land?
To answer your question, that is covered dramatically in our opening statement in our presentation, both with the percentages, feasibility report from CBRE Real Estate, and among other things. So yes, we have totally addressed that and worked with our attorney on that, and we've done our research, and our attorney has confirmed a couple of our research points, and vice versa. We actually confirmed some of theirs. So yes, we have done that.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. Bob, did you have a question? Okay, yeah, we got time for maybe one more after Bob. Behind you.
Hi, Bob again.
I think we've covered most topics.
I think we need to clarify what PAG is doing or planning on doing right now is delaying this project because we're not going to stop the project. As I understand, the city makes the decision. CEQA has put the decision power with the city. So the best thing we can do is just delay this, and hopefully the developer will walk away.
Can I step in here?
Please.
This is not intended to cause a delay of the project because we can't tell you that the project will be delayed. If the city council approves on the 9th, the developer can go forward with the project, even if we have the appeal pending. So I don't think that's correct. In addition, you cannot file a lawsuit just for purposes of delay. There's a problem with that. So the answer is no.
The best possible outcome is for the city council to turn the project down when we eventually get a hearing. That's it simply. That's why I ask everybody to write them, inundate them, tell them, not that you're just from Sun Lakes, tell them I'm a citizen of Banning. I'm proud of Banning. I want it to be a beautiful city, not full of warehouses.
All right, I think that about covers it, and want to thank everybody for coming. And I will be posting, yeah, there you go. I will be posting it for all of the, on all the Facebook stuff, and the website will be updated. I'll put the city council, we'll get the city council addresses, email addresses, city clerk's email address up there so you can check that. Give us a half a day to get that up there, and we'll get that up there.
We have some T-shirts left over.
Yeah. Yeah, we have some T-shirts if you want to buy them. Left over. Thank you again for everyone coming.